Hey, what's going on? This is AJ Styles, your WWE champion. And right now, you're listening to The William Barron Show on iTunes and iHeartRadio. And you are phenomenal.
Saying that I'm in some way negatively impacting their identity because I made a quip saying no homo.
Of course, yes.
Of course.
Of course.
It was a very heteronormative statement.
It was
How dare I?
extremely.
It's awful.
Welcome to the William Barron Show. We are brought to you by LearnMet.com. If you want to go over there, they also have a page on YouTube. And I'm joined today by
Aaron Rademacher.
Aaron Rademacher. I didn't know if you wanted to go with a moniker or not.
Well, I could. I mean, it's a little late, but I suppose
It's a little late for it now. But would you like to change? I can.
You can call me Rad.
Rad.
That's what people have called me for many years.
Okay.
And I'm accustomed to it.
Well, Rad, you're a teacher.
I am a teacher.
You teach drumming.
I do.
All kinds of percussion. So maybe you could go over here and learn how to teach. They need teachers. They need students. LearnMet.com. Check them out today. Anyway, Rad. I don't know how that doesn't really flow off the tongue.
What do you want to call me?
I'd rather call you A-Rad.
A-Rad?
A-Rad.
Go for it.
A-Rad.
Yo.
See, that sounds more like a baseball
Some
player.
people like A-Ron, from the Key and Peele skit.
Yeah.
Right?
That's huge now.
It is, and it's funny. When someone first told me about that, I hadn't seen it. It was about 2 years ago or so now. I had not seen that at that point. And so I had to go and YouTube it. I'd been hearing people say A-Ron for like a month, and I didn't know what that was all about. So finally, all right, fine, what is this? Then I go and watch it. It was like, oh my goodness, this is one of the funniest skits I've ever seen in my life.
A-Ron.
Absolutely.
They've got T-shirts now. They got bumper stickers.
You out the TD window.
It's Ken and Peele. Speaking of Ken and Peele, I just have you seen any of? Are you a big stand-up guy? Do you like watching stand-up?
I do like a number of stand-ups.
Dave Chappelle just came out with another double stand-up kind of gig. One was at a really small club in New York, and the other one was like at this huge theater in I don't know, Los Angeles or something. But I think it was Los Angeles. Anyway, he started talking about how you remember when he left the Chappelle show?
Oh yeah. You
remember what a big deal that was that he left and went to Africa and like had to go through this whole
away for a while.
This whole finding himself sort of thing.
Yeah.
He talked a little bit about how pissed he was when he left, and then he kept seeing this Ken and Peele show just completely rip off his whole premise of the Chappelle show.
Right.
And he was just like, it was like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is not only walk away from $50 million,
right,
but then I had to watch all these other people come in and try and, really fuck up my show. And I was like, damn, he just said that.
Yeah,
so
he called him out.
You could totally tell
rough.
now that he's like back and he's comfortable or whatever he needed to do, and he even started going into it, and then he stopped himself about what Africa was all about to him. But I mean, for him to do that and then come back and just be able to just say whatever he wants, it's pretty A-rad. It is.
Is that what that is?
I think that's pretty A-rad. I don't know who's your stand-up go-to? Jeff Dunham?
I enjoyed some Jeff Dunham years ago, like when I was
Right.
active duty Army.
Okay.
And one of my buddies in one of the units I was in, he had a bunch of Jeff Dunham DVDs handy. And when we
Really?
were, when I was
A ventriloquist.
Yes, which was hilarious. I hadn't heard of him at that point. It was back in like 07, 08 time frame,
Right.
and we were in Iraq. I was with the 3rd Infantry Division's band as a drummer,
Right.
which was probably one of the coolest gigs I ever
Talk
got
a
to
little
do.
bit about that, because you've told me about how you used to play like in a
Yes.
empty swimming pool.
That's very true. I'll touch on all this.
right.
I'll do this, but let me finish the thought about the Jeff Dunham bit, and I'll transition into that because I think it's worthwhile. So basically, one of those cats, he just had a bunch of those, and when we would gig, right, we'd fly by chopper all over the country, right? Like we'd have to catch a chopper at night at the flight pad, and it wasn't like private for us. It was, space available. Like we'd try to say, hey, we need to get a flight from Baghdad to middle of nowhere out in the middle of Iraq, and we'd have to do all that stuff at like 2 a.m. is when we'd
So
fly.
you finish like a gig and then get on
Yes.
a chopper?
Well, we'd start out maybe doing like a week's worth of stuff, close to a week's worth. of gigs all over the country, and we'd start at Baghdad at Camp Victory was the name of the place.
Okay.
We'd go from there and get to the first gig, and we'd get there to that other base, that little patrol base or FOB, forward operating base, out in the middle of nowhere, at like 2 a.m. And people might be there to help us, unload, or we'd have to unload and pull it all off of the helipad and get, behind the barriers, get to a safe spot. And then maybe somebody would have a vehicle there for us to get our stuff to a holding area. And then eventually we get all our stuff, because we had to move all our gear. Right? We were our own roadies. You're wearing a full 30 pounds of flak vest and your M16 and the ammunition you got to carry with you and your helmet and your instruments and your PA, all of that stuff, every bit of it. So once that's done, because that's another hour and a half worth of work, even with 5-6 people.
Right.
Finally, we get to a tent at like 3:30, 4 in the morning. We get to sleep. And then we got to get up early afternoon and go.
So you go to sleep at 4, wake up at like noon, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So you were some of the soldiers that were afforded being able to sleep in, like I pictured, like a bucket of water being dropped on your face at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
No, I mean that's
and
like
have to go
basic
run like
training
5
can
miles.
be that, but once you get past the basic training phase, it's not like that, right?
Then you can sleep whenever you want.
Well, I mean, no, but
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like, why? Okay, so you guys were like granted special privileges to be able to sleep past noon, because I can't imagine that being very common practice in the armed.
No, it's not, and it would depend too on what your gig was, right? Your job, because some jobs you're doing shift work, so yeah, you are going to sleep during the day. I did plenty of gigs where I was night shift stuff, and I slept all day during the day.
Okay.
That's just how it works. So they would have a tent or an area in a tent set aside for us, and there'd be cots and stuff. I mean, cots, like we're talking the most uncomfortable sleeping device that exists known to man. But it's been standardized, and that's the device that the military would use in these kind of situations. It'll work. We get this really cool little like 1/4-inch thick like green foam pad. Yeah, it's
nice.
Like what you might buy in the store, only less comfortable. So
for camping purposes.
Yes,
and stuff,
yes. So I would at this point I actually would bring along with me like you could get these like twin bed size memory foam pads, like 1.5 inch to 2 inch thick, and I figured out how to just compress this and roll it up and stick it into my overnight bag, or my what they call the rucksack, the go bags that we would take from gig to gig, and I would put that on top of the little foam deal and sleep on that, and it helped a lot. It helped massively. Like $50 at Target back in the day or something.
Okay.
Target. So we would do that.
Real
and
quick.
then we would chill. Well, I'm just saying to finish that thought, we would chill until it was time for our gig. We'd have rehearsal. We'd have to set up all our stuff and do sound check, but we'd be free after all that until the gig at night, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And sometimes we'd have some downtime. So let's watch some Jeff Dunham while we're chilling.
So
that's how I found out about it.
I got you. So this is all for like morale.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's all for just the soldiers that are doing the day shift, the grunt work, the because you guys have to do like there's plumbing. Everybody has their own. Am I incorrect in saying this? But like there are certain jobs for certain soldiers, and like you just said that at night you have to have somebody standing post. I mean,
absolutely.
you have to do that.
All
so
over the place.
This is just for a little bit of home.
Yeah.
For you guys, and you guys are pretty much. Are you guys rock stars on the base? I mean, are people like coming up to you? Maybe not asking for an autograph, but
do you pull up YouTube vids during the show?
I
anything
know
like that? You don't
because
do that?
it's audio.
Well,
so.
I mean, yeah, maybe think about taking a look at this later on.
Okay.
But if you go to, am I allowed to plug
Sure.
the site?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go to steadyintime.com
Absolutely. Yes.
/music, right?
Okay.
You'll see some videos from my YouTube channel that I've shared out. I hope it's acceptable to put some of these on, but I went and tracked down the CNN interview that we had when we were out there. Michael Holmes, who was a European CNN correspondent at the time, and I think still is, he came out there and interviewed all of us at our practice space on Camp Victory near Baghdad. And then he had a production assistant person like go with us and a team, a camera crew, go with us on a gig to this patrol base Dragon, or its FOB Dragon, I think it was, that was down near the Triangle of Death area.
Okay,
You know?
that doesn't sound good.
No, not particularly, but I didn't know of it personally. I never had any like intel, on stuff. I never knew things about that kind of thing. I'm just there to play a gig.
Okay.
That wasn't my job. So, whatever someone tells me, if I need to know about it, okay, yeah, this is a more rough area. Just be aware, whatever. But I don't know whether or not that was. Honestly, I can't.
What is a rough area over there? What does it look like?
Where maybe there's more attacks going on against coalition forces.
Sure, but like, what does it look like? I mean, is it like it is in the movies? I mean, are there little kids walking around with like SMGs and just military style guns like on every corner? Like, is it when you look? I mean, do you ever get close enough to a city where you're like where you go out to eat?
Not in the city.
Okay.
We didn't.
Okay.
That wasn't our purview.
So you're eating on base.
Oh yeah,
the whole time, every meal.
That's all. That's part of the military operation is to ensure that the troops are fed. That's just one of the logistical things you have.
But I mean,
to
there's no group of people that are going out to eat at like at a safe
not in Iraq
restaurant.
Not back then.
Not back then. Okay.
I don't know what it's like today. I assume it's not. Like the conditions aren't like such that happens now.
Okay.
But it definitely didn't then.
Okay.
So we would.
You see these movies where these
would
soldiers like go into people's homes
Right.
and then they eat dinner with them, and I didn't know if it was.
There are different groups that do stuff. Like if you're special forces, if you're I don't know, Marine Force Recon or something like that, then maybe you're out in the midst of people and stuff like that. I mean, we went to patrol bases at times.
Right.
Well, yeah, where people did have relationships with the locals, right?
Okay.
We were not on a tiny little base like that usually. We were on bigger, like, mother bases kind of thing.
Right.
And the little satellite bases were where we would sometimes go to,
Right.
And so sometimes those people did have relationships within the community, because they'd come in and they'd upset Al-Qaeda strongholds and things like that.
Right.
They changed that for the people in those areas, So there was a lot of positivity, as I had understood it at the time, with what little information I have. There was a lot of positivity locally with our military at that time from the locals. So they did have some of those interactions. But yeah, I guess from what little I know, again, I'm going to say that because disclaimer on everything here. I only have experience with what I had experience with, so I can't speak for the whole military. I don't claim to.
Of course.
I just speak about my own experiences to what degree I can. We occasionally convoyed places, and we would be going through the cities and things like that, going on the main highways. So yeah, we would see what life was like. And no, I mean, it wasn't like everything was just total desolate third world everywhere. Yes, there were places that were definitely a mess,
Right.
And obviously we had to come in, and there were military actions that had happened, but there were things that had happened plenty before we got there, that were going on there that weren't good.
Right.
I don't know that the previous ruler in that region was
Sure.
largely considered a nice guy to everyone.
Yeah, he didn't we find him like in a hole somewhere?
That's correct.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Yeah,
But at any rate,
did
yeah,
you
go
know,
ahead.
Was there any validity or truth to that video where they hung him? I mean, was that a real video? Was that the real
I
thing?
can't attest to that. I would assume so, but I would have as much knowledge about it as you do.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
They obviously they would keep that sort of thing pretty tightly lipped.
If that's the
I mean, do you remember the video that I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, absolutely. I never saw it, but I'm aware of the news reports that came out when that happened.
Yeah, it was
wouldn't
just like
shock me.
But I mean, couldn't it have been like a double? And then there was all
Well,
these
yeah,
all
there's
this.
all these people that talk about that kind of thing, and how would I say? I'm not saying that I don't consider things like that. I certainly have considered some of those things. There would have to be a reason behind that, right? You'd have to understand a motivation, and I'm sure there's plenty of motivations that people could drum up for that type of thing. But honestly, I don't know. So that's the best I can say. I have no knowledge more than you do because I was here when all that happened.
So during that war, you're playing in a band.
Yeah.
You're like a rock star.